All right. Hello, everyone. Just starting a few seconds early. Want to make sure we got all our technology going. And I just want to welcome everyone to CMX Spark, our first CMX event in EMEA. So we're super excited to have you guys joining us today. If you're tuning in, please in the chat, let us know where you are tuning in from. My name is Seppi, rhymes with Peppy, and I'm your MC here on the discussion stage for today. I'm originally from the United States, but I live in Malaga, Spain right now. I'm the founder of the She Hit Refresh community, and I'm also the co-host of CMX Connect Madrid. I used to live in Madrid, but now I'm Malaga. But I want you guys to help me welcome our next guest. Our next speaker lives and breathes the golden rule: by the community, for the community. So help me welcome Andreia Tulcidás, who is in Lisbon, and she is a community engagement manager at OutSystems. Virtual round of applause for her. And Andreia, pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Seppi. Rhymes with Peppy. That was the best thing that I've heard today. Okay, let me just share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Forgive me with tech difficulties. Okay. So hopefully this is working. Hi, okay, so hi everyone. My name is Andreia Tulcidás. Like Seppi said, I'm a community engagement manager at OutSystems. Welcome to this session where I'm going to tell you all about community champions, who they are, and the incredible things that they can do for your community, and how you can get your boss excited while seeing the importance of setting up a program like this. Okay, so you're probably wondering, who are these champions I'm talking about, why they're called champions, and why are they so important for our community? Let's deconstruct a little bit the terminology. Essentially, a community champion is a community super user. Okay, what is a super user then? There are multiple variations of the definition of this term, as well as a lot of similar naming for these kinds of users. You've probably heard of top contributors, advocates, ambassadors. They're interchangeable and often use as keywords. It can get a little bit confusing, but in my case, I tend to always go back to this definition from Jake McKee. The gist of it is that they're literally super users, the most active, passionate, motivated, and inspiring people in your community. So there's no one-size-fits-all term that you should be using, no right or wrong. And there are a lot of companies out there that are defining the best naming for what makes sense for their community. In our case at OutSystems, we have the champions. But in other cases, we have Salesforce that has their MVPs or most valuable professionals. Spotify has, obviously, their rock stars. And Docker, funnily enough, have their captains. The important thing is that your community relates to the name you choose and that you identify with it and would feel proud to rock that title. So this is all very nice, and you're probably already drifting off, starting to think about names you could give to your super users. But why exactly should you create a program dedicated to your champions? What would be the point? So I read something in this phenomenal book about community management. It's called Get Together by Bailey Richardson, Kai Soto, and Kevin Hewing. And it says, the secret of growing a community isn't about management. It's about developing leaders. Let that sink in. I'm a firm believer that these champions can become an army of advocates that support the success of what you're trying to accomplish, acting as your extended community team. With their help, your community will affect more people and sustain itself longer than you could have managed on your own. And they go beyond discussing a shared interest to actively delivering work that promotes the success of the community and its members. They can also scale insight into your community audience because they act as proxies, able to summarize and understand things in a way your team could never. And last but not least, you're able to encourage these incredible community leaders and celebrate their accomplishments. So there's a model, the Spaces model, that to this day is one of my favorite frameworks for defining a community's business value. And it's obviously no surprise that it was developed by some of the biggest names in the community industry. Thinking of your community, what is it that it is striving to achieve? Is it a product community where members share their ideas and feedback that drive innovation and product improvements? Is it an engagement-focused community where members feel a stronger connection to the brand, no matter the product or service? All communities can derive business value from one of these objectives, and most actually drive value in more than one. The OutSystems community drives value in a lot of these objectives. So your super user programs have to go the distance, and they have to tie their primary objective back to a very clearly defined business goal. So you will need to directly prove that your Champions program supports a wider business objective. Many organizations claim that they created their program to give back or to recognize and reward passion and loyalty. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I did the exact same thing. But that's not usually the true, main, only unique goal. The primary objective is to encourage behavior that delivers clear value, not only to the community, but also to the organization. So make sure you're taking the time to define what exactly is your North Star, your goal, what will drive positive impact to your community and to your company. Okay, hopefully at this point, you're kind of convinced that a Champions program is something you should be thinking more seriously about. So now comes the fun part where you start digging and looking for these amazing, incredible community members. There are a lot of places where you can start looking for your potential champions. What do you think about your most active community members? There are folks that are always posting on the forums or consistently organizing events. Maybe community members that are constantly evangelizing your product, whether through social media, by creating content about your offering, or by evangelizing it to other communities. Or even your biggest fans that whatever you do, they're always there, liking, upvoting, supporting, and sharing. The world is your oyster. One way you can look at it and how you can identify champions is through the 80-20 rule. Or if you're feeling fancy, like I'm sort of feeling fancy, the Pareto principle. This principle states that 20% of your efforts will generate 80% of your results. Carrie Melissa Jones wrote a great article about the 80-20 rule that actually applies to communities, where she states that 20% of your members, roughly speaking, are likely to contribute 80% of the results. You could start by identifying these 20% and getting to know them better. The principle operates whether you're a community of 50 or 50,000. However, there's no exact way to predict which of these rules is actually the most accurate, and they've been set as benchmarks, but only to help, only to guide. This is just an example. Another alternative that you can use is mapping out your community's commitment curve. The idea is that over time, your community's members' level of commitment will increase. As their commitment to the community increases, their willingness to make larger and larger contributions to the community goes up. So by mapping your community commitment curve, you can lay out all the different actions you see your community members doing and define from which starting point you could consider them super users. So in this case, looking at the OutSystems community commitment curve, that starting point is in the leadership stage. But again, just a suggestion, a visual way for you to look at your community's journey and help you define who your champions could be and what they would be doing. So, what do you look for in potential champions? Ideally, you would seek genuine, passionate, and qualified people. And from all my experience running a champions program, defining criteria is of the utmost importance. That said, Make sure that you have clearly identified minimum eligibility requirements for a champion to be able to join your program. And above all, have them stated publicly, being as transparent and concise as possible. Define how exactly champions are going to be collaborating with you and contributing to the community. And again, because I'm a big believer of transparency, make sure that everyone in the community understands why champions are champions, who they are, and what they're actually doing to contribute. Okay, so at this point, you know what champions are, you know why it would be important for your community to actually set up a formal program. Hopefully you know where you can find your own champions. But before getting the show on the road, you're going to need the green light. And for that, you need to show how this is going to have an incredible impact on your community and on your business. So time to head up to the bosses and get your team on board and actually excited. I'm going to share a very specific example of how we did this at OutSystems, and hopefully you'll be able to reuse it on your own case. At OutSystems, the narrative that we've adopted is around the flywheel model that maps out all our community programs, defines the motions we're going to focus on, and justifies the impact that the team will be having. Why a flywheel, you ask? A flywheel technically stores kinetic energy as force is applied, which in turn generates momentum. By eliminating friction along the way, it becomes efficient and spins even faster. It takes less energy to turn it around again and again, and in the future, after you've got it up and spinning. We took this analogy and implemented it into what we call our community flywheel, which focuses on applying positive energy and removing friction in four main forces: activate, adopt, adore, and advocate. Each force lends energy toward the next one in an infinite loop. Along with those forces, we have identified personas that move along the wheel. We have the evaluators, the beginners, the regulars, and you guessed it, the champions. In this flywheel model, we envisioned a community that runs on a never-ending cycle of learning, creating, and giving back. A community where people feel comfortable to learn in the way that best suits them, enabling each individual to create more and to give more. The community not only emphasizes the power of the individual, but also the empowerment of others by encouraging collaboration and sharing at all levels. Now, when you say this, you're saying that having champions will actually help bring in more people to the community. You're saying that you're activating them to help your team and your company nurture more community members. You're saying that you're producing organic word of mouth instead of relying on marketing dollars. You're saying that your community is learning with each other because they're openly sharing their knowledge. Momentum builds momentum. Humans are attracted to things that clearly add value to other humans. How do you prove this? Use your community data, use other programs' data, research benchmarks, best practices, learn from other super user programs, focus on the business goal that you've identified in the very early stages, and explain how that will be the underlying base of your champions program. So prove your impact. Now, my favorite part, when we get our hands dirty and actually talk about the work that you're going to be putting into making this champion program a success. Your community's long-term reach and impact will be determined by your ability to find and empower the right set of champions. So recruiting the right people in the right way should be your top priority. Make sure you define what your application process is going to look like. Are you doing screenings? Are you doing interviews? Is it an open application situation? Are you doing it via referrals? Hammer down all the different people you're going to work with to select the best champions for your program. Is it people from your product team, your marketing team, your engineering team? What is going to be their role and why are they important for the process? Decide the best place you want to manage all your applications and make sure it's accessible to the bigger team. I'm a fan of spreadsheets. I have 37 spreadsheets for everything, but you can use a specific software. You can build a specific app. You decide what works best for you. When it comes to maintaining the program, there are a lot of operations and logistics behind it. Top 3 that I have identified out of probably 27,000 in the past couple of years. Be consistent with your communications. You're going to be promoting your champions, advocating for their work, recognizing their contributions, announcing new joiners, and all of this will take a lot of time and effort. So plan ahead, commit to recurrent timestamps. Specific example for my community is that every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of every month, we announce new champions. And it has helped tremendously, and it's such a small thing, but it has gone a long way. To ensure that your leaders can be successful, you want to provide them with as much guidance and support as possible. You can host trainings, offer coaching, assemble a knowledge base, record tutorials, pre-write emails, develop checklists. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And finally, because we can't do everything ourselves, know your dependencies. What is the estimated deadline for your design team to create branding assets? Or for your social team to schedule social posts? Or for your web team to update your landing page? Everything can work great when you're thinking about the work that you're going to put into, but you're dependent on other teams. So take that into consideration when you're planning and executing. A champions program is a program made of people. So it's needless to say that you will need to work a lot on engaging with them. Enable communications as much as possible, whether it's creating a Slack workspace, a WhatsApp group, so that they can interact with each other, but also interact with you. Keep yourself in check by making sure that you're doing your part in that interaction. Push to be active in those channels and get your internal team's commitment, whichever are relevant and would add value to your champions, because they'll be part of the conversation and put in the time. Your program will scale much more efficiently if your champions are also able to support each other and exchange knowledge. So keep brainstorming on ways that you can get them to talk amongst themselves and to identify collaboration opportunities. Every company will have unique benefits and incentives depending on their community. My community is technical. It's made of developers. And what developers value is direct communication channels with internal teams, such as the product team, the R&D team, the engineering team, to deep dive on what we're working on, how we can improve our product, and basically access new product features before the rest of the world. Training and certifications to upskill their knowledge, one-on-ones and networking sessions with top folks from the company, their own special VIP area at our events and conferences, and of course, all and any swag. However, this is what works for my community. This is where you should think about the things that would incentivize your community. Last, but definitely not least, the numbers, the holy grail of impact. If you have the resources, I would highly recommend building out a dashboard to keep track of your champions' contributions to the community. What are they doing on the forums? How many events have they organized and how many people attended? How many technical documentation pieces have they created and how many people read them? You will be able to have everything concise in one single view. Because of the tight relationship that these champions also have with our internal teams and how much feedback they have provided, actually account for how much of that was implemented. This is the direct impact right there on how you're making the product as best as it can be and how your champions are contributing. And finally, they are your advocates representing you in the field. So think of ways you can track their influence. If they're going to speak at events, have special codes for everyone they bring to try the platform, do a referral program and track who they're bringing into the ecosystem. I know this was a lot of information to receive in such a short period of time. I talk a lot, I'm sorry. But if you've made it this far with me and you're thinking about putting a champions program together and running with it, just know you got this. Go Crush it. And I hope this session was helpful. Feel free to reach out to me on any and all of the social networks, or just shoot me an email. Thank you so much for attending, and see you all soon.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Virtual round of applause. That was amazing. Not only was the content incredible, your energy and presentation skills are on point. So a few questions here. We have some time for questions. So again, for those that are watching, if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A box. Sorry, I forgot to turn it on. So if you didn't see it, it's on now, and we have some questions in there. So I'm going to start with Leah. Leah has a question here, and she says, what is a good, oh, sorry, someone just added a question. I lost the question. Okay, here it is. She says, what is a good ratio of super users related to the size of the community? How are you juggling different types of super users, support users, content creators, event organizers?
That's an awesome question. So like I said at the beginning, I don't think that there's a set guideline or specific ratio that is a rule. There are a lot of different rules. For a long time, we used the 90-9-1 rule, which is basically 90% lurkers, 9% contributors, and 1% creators. So that basically means that 90% of your community is just consuming content, that is just consuming material, and the rest is sort of participating. And then you have 1% that is actually creating new things for your community. So we use that, how do you say, like that terminology for a long time. This 80-20 ratio has also been very helpful because it makes you look at the community as a broader sense of people that you should be empowering and activating and elevating towards what they're doing. But regarding how I'm juggling, or how we're juggling different super users, our super users have 5 different areas of contribution. And so it's very fun because on the online community, we have different areas. Then we have the events, we have mentoring programs, we have technical content. So it really goes back to getting your teams accountable to understand how they're actually contributing to the community, and making sure that you're distributing your work. I mean, at the end of the day, these champions are just doing what they were going to do with or without the program. So you just need to make sure that you're taking that into consideration and helping them as much as you can.
Fabulous. Gonna take the next question. All right. They say, Andreia, amazing content. This is from Anne. She says, I'm immensely inspired by your work to also implement a similar program. Are there other community champions programs you'd see as benchmarks?
Yes, I mentioned some of them. So we have the Spotify rock stars. They are phenomenal. We have the Salesforce MVPs, but I think that any person in the community that doesn't reference Salesforce as an example for anything is failing, right? I mean, Salesforce is like the utopia you aspire to become. And Foursquare has something very intricate because they use levels. So the way that we look at our super user programs, or the way I look at as a community manager, is really empowering users to become more active and to contribute to the community. But there's also a lot of gamification that is added. There are a lot of incentives that you can do to reward and get those people contributing more. And so if you're thinking about a more complex system, Foursquare has an incredibly complex but very well put together super user program.
Fabulous. All right, we still have some time, so I'm going to go to the next question here from Rishi. Asks, how do we actually implement the data and metrics, dashboards, influence, etc.?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. So the way that we do it is we have access to that data. And so I think that we're very fortunate that we're able to track everything that happens online, and everything that happens offline is in the responsibility of the super users. So the way that we do it is every community member has their profile, and every time they do something online, it gets automatically added to their profile. And every time they do something offline, let's say like organize an event or create a technical piece, they add it manually to the profile. And so every time something is added to their specific page, we know that person X did Y, and Z. The thing is, you need to have those processes set up, because I think that otherwise it will be super manual. It's not impossible. For a long time, we track those things manually. It's just that you're going to be babysitting more of those people.
Got it. That kind of leads to our next question, and this will probably be our last question just for the sake of time, because we got a lot more questions here. But Joanna, did you set up the dashboard yourself, or did you have someone help you do that? Can you speak more on the practical level of that?
Oh yeah, I wish I was a data scientist. Not at all. I mean, I would not know what to do with it. We fortunately have a data science team that works with us, and we have a digital team that has put together all these processes to account for community activity. So I don't think I can help. I mean, I wish I could help, but I'm not putting the data together. I'm very fortunate that we have a dashboard put together.
Fabulous. All right. I'm so sorry, everyone watching. I see your questions coming in, but unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. Andreia, thank you so much. This was an incredible session. I hope you look in the chat. You got great feedback there. We're really just fortunate to have had you today, share your knowledge with us, and thank you again.
Thank you, Seppi. Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. And for everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. Please stick around. We have a lot going on. Check out the EMEA job fair. Don't forget that. We have more sessions coming up. So stick around, take a look at the agenda, and we'll see you throughout the day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.